The story commences. Leah enters the MediaCorp facility radiating immense self-assurance, informing a coworker that her long-held ambitions are finally manifesting. Rowland offers a genial reception, praising her aesthetic without any delay, though she soon finds herself embroiled in a dispute with Trees regarding the nutritional merits of cauliflower rice. Trees provides confirmation that Dan is prepared for their anticipated consultation. Consequently, Leah readies her mindset as she proceeds toward the broadcasting floor. The technical staff organizes the concluding sequence mere moments prior to going live, while Leah observes from the periphery as the recording devices commence operation. Brenda and Ted initiate the morning segment with vibrant vitality, and subsequently, Dan addresses the emotional toll of relinquishing his professional position. Nevertheless, he pauses before sharing startling intelligence concerning her advancement, clarifying that the leadership team intends to vet a secondary prospect beforehand. Dan alleges there is skepticism regarding her capacity for partnership, a claim that rattles Leah, who considers her collaborative nature a core strength. Leah asserts her commitment, highlighting her consistent early arrivals, yet Dan discloses that her rival is the celebrated Jarrett Roy. Leah unburdens her frustrations to her social circle about competing with Jarrett, and a companion inquires about their shared history, detecting underlying friction. She elaborates that being an auxiliary partner has its disadvantages, eventually confessing they were romantically involved years prior, until his infidelity ended things. This betrayal motivated her to establish a rigorous set of criteria for future mates. Accordingly, her friend recites the stipulations, poking fun at the precise height requirements. They find amusement in her insistence on impeccable dental hygiene habits. However, she maintains that discovering a gentleman possessing these specific traits is a rarity. Despite the levity, Leah conveys authentic apprehension regarding the biased circumstances, delivering a critique of patriarchal benchmarks while her peers provide vocal support. The collective shouts in exasperation at the entrenched systemic prejudices at play. An uncomfortable pause ensues as a passerby disrupts their dialogue. Suddenly, a colleague bursts in to notify them of Jarrett's arrival. Everyone shifts their gaze to observe Jarrett entering the workplace. Dan officially presents Jarrett Roy to the morning broadcast crew, and as he highlights Jarrett's distinguished career and acclaimed moniker, Leah provides Dan with a deceptive account of her previous association with Jarrett. Meanwhile, a staffer candidly expresses fascination with Jarrett's physical build. Admitting she has already scrutinized his private social media images, Leah summons Jarrett into her private office for a candid discussion. Jarrett pointedly acknowledges his awareness that Leah finds his presence unwelcome. He articulates his resentment over losing a prior showrunner slot and announces his goal to eventually seize control of the current program. In response, Leah patronizingly adjusts his necktie to signal her professional authority. Subsequently, the team assembles to brainstorm themes for Valentine's Day. Dan dismisses various concepts for being overly specialized or somber. Leah proposes a cynical investigation into the commercialization of the holiday, contending that contemporary romance is largely a staged performance fueled by social expectations. Dan demands a more conventional subject for the viewership. Consequently, Jarrett intervenes to introduce a literary work that moved him, recommending a feature on a well-known clergyman from Oklahoma. Leah instantly challenges whether the theological perspective aligns with their broadcast. However, Jarrett maintains the romantic guidance is universally applicable. Dan elects to sanction the proposal, despite Leah's obvious reluctance, subsequently tasking Leah with co-producing the segment alongside Jarrett. Following the assembly, Jarrett mocks Leah near the facility's elevators. Leah proposes they curtail their communication to prevent ongoing friction. Jarrett claims the book effectively salvaged his previous womanizing lifestyle. He cautions Leah to either contribute or remain uninvolved. That evening, Leah complains to a confidant about Jarrett's massive self-importance, asserting that unlike him, her judgment is typically accurate, pledging to undermine his efforts while maintaining a facade of cooperation. The telecast starts with a feature on pet nuptials, though Leah facetiously laments her own unattached status while on camera. Nonetheless, turmoil breaks out when a guest's canine becomes unruly, necessitating a sudden transition away from the chaotic scene. Later, Leah offers a conventional set of interview inquiries, but Jarrett rejects her cautious strategy for the segment. He reveals he has already coordinated a regional excursion, adamant that they must journey to Tulsa to consult the clergyman. Leah visits her father that night to express her anger, and he softly encourages her to visit her mother's final resting place. Leah declines to engage with her enduring sorrow just yet, asserting she is too preoccupied with sabotaging Jarrett's career. Reaching a lounge to meet their supervisor, Dan, Leah realizes they were misled into a private encounter. Jarrett questions their lack of casual run-ins, and Leah confesses she has calculatedly avoided him for a long duration. He maintains that he has evolved since their separation, asserting he now pursues relationships with profound intent. Leah dismisses this supposed character transformation, daring him to exit the rivalry if his remorse is genuine. Jarrett expresses regret for the past, but declines to step down. To demonstrate his assurance, he requests a colorful cocktail, proving he retains knowledge of her preferred beverage despite the palpable friction between them. The following dawn, the staff assembles at the terminal, where Leah grumbles about sacrificing her personal time. A co-worker describes a catastrophic romantic encounter she recently endured, while Jarrett arrives to welcome the group with irritating charisma. Leah ridicules Jarrett regarding the security screening at the gate, but he maintains a smug expression because Rowland coordinated their seating together, necessitating proximity during the flight to Tulsa. On the production set, they consult author Michael Todd concerning human connections. He posits that digital platforms frequently warp romantic priorities. Leah strives to maintain a superficial and expert tone, but Todd maintains that partners must value internal character over external appearance. Brenda inquires about remaining in a bond that has become inert, prompting Todd to utilize a vivid metaphor involving communal chicken pieces. He questions if anyone truly desires sustenance touched by others, which triggers feelings of inadequacy in Brenda regarding her romantic history. Jarrett interjects to challenge the clergyman on the topic of surface-level attraction, igniting a volatile dispute between him and Leah during the live broadcast. They begin targeting one another's personal shortcomings rather than conducting the interview, until Brenda redirects the dialogue toward long-term stagnation. Todd suggests that in the absence of progression, a bond should perhaps terminate. Later, the women meet in private to digest the somber counsel, and Brenda confesses her dread that she is squandering her prime years. While her companions resolve to refine their romantic targets, Leah resolutely upholds her highly specific list of mate requirements. Her co-workers caution that her inflexible benchmarks are actually hurdles, implying she might be unwittingly ruining her own prospects for joy. One companion decides to implement the intentional courtship strategy immediately, yet Leah maintains her primary objective is overcoming Jarrett. She detests utilizing her Sunday to capture secondary footage with him. Nevertheless, they attend a gathering where Todd delivers a sermon about the days ahead. He encourages the attendees to cease dwelling on historical errors and to detach from individuals obstructing their evolution. However, their itinerary is abruptly derailed by meteorological alerts as a hazardous tornado warning is broadcast for the region. The scene shifts to the airport where departures are scrubbed. Jarrett discloses he preemptively secured a rental vehicle for their transit, and Leah begrudgingly consents to travel by road to evade the approaching storm. During the drive, Jarrett mentions the cinematic feature Twister, and he awkwardly enthuses about the romantic magnetism of the primary actors. Meanwhile, Natalie contacts her mother to discuss her romantic trepidations, promising to entrust her future partnerships to divine guidance moving forward. Back inside the vehicle, Leah upholds her rigid partner specifications, and Jarrett ridicules her superficial demand for high-stature men, contending that her uncompromising rules are the cause of her solitude. Suddenly, his control panel displays a message from a woman named Candace, and the synthesized voice addresses him as Big Daddy, resulting in massive chagrin. Jarrett barks at the interface to terminate the shameful notification, insisting to Leah that he has not communicated with Candace in the recent past, citing their current project to rationalize his erratic dating behavior. Becoming earnest, he expresses sympathy regarding the loss of her mother, but Leah swiftly dismisses his empathy to prevent showing weakness. They pause at a roadside eatery where Jarrett interrogates the server, asking Doris if the seafood selection is farmed. Doris mockingly provides a comprehensive biography of the fish to ridicule him, then abruptly ends any further dialogue regarding the cuisine. Elsewhere, Teresa presents Rowland as her partner during a family assembly, asserting the bond is becoming substantial to sway her relatives. Her kin greets him with hospitality before the meal, but her mother pulls her aside to challenge the deception, correctly identifying that Teresa is fabricating the relationship. When Teresa eventually admits she feels scrutinized for being unattached, her mother suggests employing emotional vulnerability to draw men in. Later, Michael asks his companion about studying a relationship manual, maintaining they are a formidable duo despite their disagreements. Brenda challenges Aidan regarding the absence of a long-term pledge in their bond, arguing that their cohabitation is effectively a counterfeit marriage. She resolves to cease functioning as a spouse without the formal recognition, informing Aidan she is relocating until he resolves his uncertainty. The boyfriend is left bewildered as she terminates his romantic access, and she immediately departs for a friend's residence to secure lodging. The following day, Leah grumbles about being confined in a vehicle with Jarrett, yet her companions maintain the two broadcasters possess undeniable magnetism. They deliberate on Brenda's hazardous plan to compel a marriage proposal from Aidan. While Leah attempts to concentrate on the theological components of their project, back at the workstation, Jarrett lobbies for a raw, investigative perspective, claiming Leah's strategy produces nothing but superficial fluff. Leah retorts that the viewership desires optimism rather than dark skepticism, but their inability to reach a consensus attracts the scrutiny of their director. He cautions that their failure to work together could jeopardize the promotion, necessitating that the competitors reluctantly join forces during the editing phase. Subsequently, they organize recording equipment to document a segment with a couple, questioning them on the philosophy of courting purposefully without physical intimacy. However, one participant confuses the broadcasters by proposing non-monogamy as a viable path, which Leah graciously dismisses before concluding the uncomfortable session. Searching for perspective, Leah meets her father at a local gymnasium. It is there he kindly cautions her that a professional designation is not the ultimate goal, reminding her that evading affection to avoid heartbreak is a fallacious strategy, urging Leah to be vulnerable despite previous traumas. Meanwhile, Brenda reconvenes with Aiden to determine if their separation fostered change. Aiden justifies his stalling by mentioning the pressures of his upcoming retirement. Recognizing he expects her to forgo her desires indefinitely, she terminates the bond, announcing the relationship is officially finished due to his self-centeredness. Consequently, she returns to the residence where her peers support her difficult choice. Brenda weeps while the group endeavors to solace her wounded spirit, assuring her that her time was not squandered on him, promising that a fresh beginning is superior to settling for inadequacy. Brenda's companions take her to a lounge to elevate her mood, but the vacant spot is dishearteningly silent for their preferences. They attempt to dance to a single track, before realizing they have moved past the loud nightlife scene, electing to depart immediately to maintain their self-respect. Later, Leah and Jarrett evaluate a preliminary version of their assignment, clashing over which perspectives should govern the final modifications. Quentin loses patience with the bickering and excludes them from the workspace, forcing the competitors to wait in the hallway while the editor proceeds independently. Jarrett attempts to alleviate the stress by teasing Leah about her professional drive, before reflecting on how motivated they both were at the start of their careers. He posits that individuals eventually identify those truly worthy of their devotion, fostering a second of quiet intimacy within the workplace. They spend the waiting period vocalizing traditional melodies, blending their voices in a lighthearted manner, until Quentin interjects to announce the task is finished. Both producers acknowledge the revised version of the narrative is superb, and Quentin reveals their individual contributions actually complemented one another perfectly. On Valentine's Day, Jarrett presents Leah with a memento to celebrate their achievement, while she offers a framed image satirizing his previous conduct. Elsewhere, Brenda reacts sharply toward a coworker for being overly buoyant, cautioning him against employing trite holiday terminology during the broadcast. She stabilizes herself to introduce the specialized segment on spirituality, which highlights an interview concerning aligning romance with metaphysical objectives. The segment features Mike's account of conquering personal struggles and concludes with a potent message regarding relationship restoration. Dan enters abruptly with intelligence that the viewership metrics surpassed all previous marks, marking their massive triumph over competing networks. Jarrett modestly attributes the narrative's profundity to Leah's efforts, while Dan observes that they elicit the highest potential from one another. A review of audience feedback confirms their segment truly struck a chord, leading Jarrett to propose a celebratory outing. However, Leah finds it difficult to rise when her leg becomes numb, recovering just as Jarrett suggests a temporary halt to their hostilities. Later that evening, they meet while appearing remarkably sophisticated. Arriving at a stylish, concealed lounge Jarrett chose, Leah enjoys a cocktail, while Jarrett admits she provides a challenge, confessing she has made a lasting impression on him, reflecting on how she motivates his self-improvement. He jokingly compares her persistence to that of a resilient insect. Jarrett then utilizes a translation tool to vocalize romantic phrases in French, creating a transition where he confesses she is everything he desires, and the mood turns intimate as he moves closer. The following morning, Leah attempts a quiet exit from the suite, terrified that their closeness was a monumental error. Jarrett maintains he has evolved since their historical conflicts, but Leah ignores his attempts to discuss a shared future. As she nervously insists he conceal his distracting physique, Merwin abruptly terminates the dialogue to vacate the premises. Leah proclaims her intent to secure the showrunner role, before pausing outside to criticize herself for the lapse in judgment. Meanwhile, Jarrett remains smiling, labeling it his finest evening. Later, Leah meets with Brenda to express her agitation. However, Jarrett disrupts their meeting to talk, triggering a defensive reaction from Brenda regarding his sudden appearance. Aiden waits outside the residence, begging for a chance to converse, admitting that his existence feels devoid of meaning without Brenda's presence. He claims he is unable to eat or sleep following their split, and reveals he utilized Michael Todd's literary work for advice. Eager to reconcile, he invites her to his retirement celebration this evening, hoping she will observe his pledge to start anew correctly. Brenda wavers because she dreads being wounded once more. Nevertheless, Michael Todd encourages her to simply attend and observe. That evening, Brenda enters the celebration in a breathtaking gown, drawing Aiden's focus as he guides her toward the platform. He publicly declares that she is the supreme blessing in his life, asserting that a future beside her constitutes a total victory. He drops to one knee to display a ring before the assembly, requesting the honor of her becoming his spouse. She consents to his proposal, and the onlookers applaud the betrothal. The next morning, Leah waits with apprehension in her workspace for information, attempting to consume a bagel while Rowland tries to soothe her. Dan eventually arrives to declare that the showrunner role is hers, extolling her skill and commitment to the entire crew. However, he reveals that Jarrett actually withdrew his name from consideration, adamant that Leah was the sole legitimate choice for the position. Jarrett recognized he was actually placed there for an alternative objective and confessed he should never have sought the role. Subsequently, the staff convenes to honor Dan's departure and Leah's advancement, marking her new role as the premier director in the industry. Dan delivers an emotional address regarding leaving them under capable leadership. However, Leah admits to Brenda that the achievement feels unearned. She dislikes that Jarrett surrendered rather than competing for the slot, but Brenda counsels her to allow him to pursue his own path. Leah elects to celebrate her new phase of independence, stating she requires solitude to rediscover herself. Despite her career triumph, a profound melancholy persists in her spirit. That afternoon, she visits the burial ground to converse with her mother, weeping as she questions why she remains feeling so hollow. Her father nears silently to provide support in her time of sorrow, stating her mother would be gratified by her accomplishments. He cautions her that progression is impossible without addressing her history, and Leah realizes she must finally grapple with her psychological baggage. Leah eventually lowers her defenses and confesses her affection for Jarrett, recognizing she must discard her rigid requirements to find companionship. Nevertheless, her companions become frantic because Jarrett has already departed the building, disclosing he took a position on the West Coast. They maintain Leah must pursue him with a significant action, urgently notifying her that he is currently entering a flight. Leah accelerates to the airport and reaches the security line, where she provides a fraudulent report of a hazardous bag to halt the process. Security detains Jarrett, enabling Leah to speak with him directly. She breathlessly admits her devotion to him in the terminal, informing him she hate-loves him intensely despite her deep-seated anxieties. She confesses her fear of allowing someone to hold her heart, but clarifies that career achievements are trivial without his presence. Leah concedes he was correct regarding their shared romantic potential. Jarrett accepts her heartfelt apology with a genial grin. He elects to forego his flight to remain in New York, assuring Leah she is worth the loss of the massive career prospect. Sometime later, Leah assists Brenda in preparing for her nuptials, and the women experience a poignant moment of happiness together. At the altar, the clergyman celebrates the pair's spiritual evolution, declaring they have successfully discarded their previous romantic habits. Brenda and Aidan are formally declared husband and wife, and they share a fervent kiss as their cherished ones cheer wildly.